What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. And I'm fiction. I'm back with a new episode of What of Naruto Was the Dark Lord of Darkness Part 4. And if you did enjoy this video, give this a like. And if you're new to my channel, like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for my crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
7th Chapter Training and Improvement. Old Man of the Mountain, Dark Lord 331 Beta. Naruto had returned to Andre after leaving the sewers. While he was there, he requested him to do some maintenance on the arm, and he admitted that the arm was in good condition, but it just needed a little oil and some simple maintenance. Sitting by the bonfire, Naruto sighed and discussed the problem with his war council. So we have a problem with that creature down in the sewers. Nothing I accomplished even scraped the surface of that beast. Perhaps we need to find a more powerful weapon to begin tearing through the monster's flesh. That won't be easy. That creature is a descendant of the ancient dragons, who are known for their durability and everlasting power, but it appears that this one is a lesser dragon that I heard about. One that has mutated to the point where it resembles a vagina with teeth. Well, stranger things could have happened. Guinevere blushes, and honestly, with everything that has happened, I have no guarantee on why it mutated, but it could be that it hungered for more power. I believe that is irrelevant at this time. Perhaps, but it's worth thinking about. What could have altered the dragon so much that it became that? Perhaps it has something to do with this curse going around? Could the Lord Souls pull this off? No, most of the souls are still in the realms of those who control the kingdom, but according to what I heard after Father left to relight the first flame, most of the lords have remained untouched in their domains. I see, then they can't have been involved in this. Perhaps. The only two people I can think of who would do something like this are Seath and the witch, but the latter, last I heard, was having problems with something she created, whereas the former has been locked up in his research conservatory. Huh. Naruto muttered, but back on topic, Kurama is right, we need to do some more work on my weapons as some of them are just not cutting it anymore. How about those strange black shards we discovered? What if we gave them to Andre and asked him if he could do anything with them? That might work. Also, didn't Andre say that if we did him a favor, we could get that big sword he has in his inventory? That weapon appears to be powerful enough that I believe we can slice through the dragon's skin regardless of how strong it is. You forget that I'd have to practice with the sword, which could take days, if not weeks. I'm not sure about you, but I'm not sure we have that type of time because food does not appear to be plentiful. True, but thanks to the Estu's flasks, you won't need it. Explain. The flask restores a body to its normal state, which means that if you drink it, it should remove all signs of fatigue and can even remove your hunger and thirst, keeping your body operating at full capacity. While we can find food in some places in the realm and with some of the traders if we just harvest some of the undead that are still reviving. True, Naruto groaned, but first, update our weapon, and then we walk into the jungle to see if we can find the blacksmith that Andre told us about. First, rest. You've been working yourself to exhaustion, and we're going to need you at 100% before we go challenge the forest, so get our stuff together and then get some sleep. Naruto sighed and agreed with her. There was no use in driving himself ragged if he didn't take a break to recover from all the battling. While he agreed with Estu's flask, he believed it should be reserved for when he needed it, and given that the woman in the cage could increase it, he wasn't sure he wanted to squander the initial dose only to satisfy his hunger. Naruto approached Andre and showed him the medal, explaining that he could upgrade his blade with them but only to a certain point because the quality of the steel mattered. He could sharpen and strengthen the weapon with it, but only to approximately 3 times its normal strength. Other sorts exist in the world, and if he is vigilant, he can find more of their kind, allowing him to strengthen his sword even further. He nodded and let Andre work with all the shards he had while relaxing by the link fire till he was done. Naruto despised sleeping, but after drinking the Estu's flask at Guinevere's request, he became drowsy, so he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Return to the past. Naruto could argue that he should have done more, like smashing the desk and throwing trash out the window. He should have smacked his ostensible pals and told them to fuck off. But he knew it would only bring more people down his behind, and he was confident that the other villages would accept his cage's decision. Something that irritated him. If it hadn't been for him, the present cage would not be living. He is certain that if he and Sasuke hadn't patched things up, the village would no longer exist and everyone would be locked in an unending dream realm. But, Owing to him, Sasuke gets a pass, but he is treated like the solved-all solution. He was exhausted, tired of this shambles, tired of being exploited, and tired of giving a shit. When he returned to his apartment, he began collecting everything, all of his goods and all of his knowledge, and putting it into scrolls that he would hide with the toads, who remained loyal to him despite his partner Gamakichi becoming the new clan leader. While he did inquire as to why, Naruto responded that he was simply through and that he was ready to go on the next chapter of his life. Hearing this, the toad understood and left him to his own ways, but wished him luck and told him to call for them if he needed them. Naruto waited until dusk before walking to the north gate, which was the least secured of the 3 gates they had. But, unlike before, there were no soldiers at the gate, and Sasuke stood there with a smile on his face. "I knew you'd show up here." Naruto grinned. "Why are you here to see me off?" Sasuke bowed and said, "I figured you'd want to see at least one friend before you left, but given how they're acting, I thought a brother would be better." "It is." He and Sasuke exchanged glances. "Are you certain about this?" Naruto nodded and said, "I am." Sasuke let out a sigh. "Can't say I blame you." He smiled. "Take care of yourself. I'll keep the guessing for a few days and that should be enough time, no?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yeah. I heard Wave has some ships that travel away from the elemental nations and end up in some new lands far away. I figured if I did this, I'd be a little more free than if I just moved to another country." "True," he said, smiling. "Are you worried that someone will read my mind to find out?" Naruto shook his head. "Doesn't matter to me. Either way I'm not coming back." Turning to face the mountain, he glared at the faces of the first and second, the fifth and sixth Hokage. "You know I always dreamed of my face on that rock wall, but now I realize it was just that, a dream. Something that I chased to help pursue the idea that people will respect me if I did something amazing, but I realized something that you taught me." Sasuke shook his head. "Probably travel. Sakura is getting on my nerves again, and while I understand that people want me to rebuild the clan, I want it to be my choice and whoever I choose to do so with." Naruto laughed and smiled. "Are you sure you're not gay?" Sasuke scowled. "Watch it. At the very least, I know I'm not a virgin." Naruto returned the stare. What was his name? Rod. Both brothers exchanged glances before bursting out laughing. The two simply smiled and gripped one another's hands before falling into a hug. "Be safe, little brother. You're too big, bro." Naruto walked past Sasuke and rushed off in a blur, allowing the Uchiha to escape with a little tear. "Is this how you felt when you saw me for the last time, Itachi? I'm sorry you felt that way." Naruto, on the other hand, simply dashed for the border and smiled. "I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, but I can't vow allegiance anymore. I like that people earn my allegiance rather than receive it." His journey to discover the ship in Wave and sail off into the unknown began with this. Ends of flashbacks. Andre's yell for Naruto jolted him awake. He rushed back to the blacksmith and showed him his sword, which had a peculiar air surrounding the blade. Something related to being sharper and better shaped than usual. Andre indicated that he had done everything he could to improve the weapon and that he should be fine with some of the enemies in the forest. Naruto thanked him and continued into the forest, or at least the lower level, where he came across an odd sight of a formidable beast living below. Andre and his workshop are literally only 1 floor below. Naruto defeated the creature with a few rapid blows and by avoiding its long-range magical attacks. He also discovered another of the metal shards that he had stumbled upon and hurriedly grabbed it so he could utilize it later. He then made his way into a dark woodland area, where he began to see nothing but trees and vines as far as the eye could see. He observed a few plant animals emerge from the jungle as he walked down the route. They were basically huge vines with brush for heads, swinging furiously at him. Surprisingly, Naruto had to duck closer to the animals to dodge their long-range swing, but he was able to wipe them out with a few rapid blows that cut them in half. Naruto marched along the trail, encountering occasional off-the-beaten-path interactions and minor encounters here and there. However, he was successful in claiming the valuables and souls that were remaining in some of the locations. He eventually found his way through the passage to an opening that revealed a walled-off tower-looking edifice to his left, a large sealed wall in front of him, and, as he was informed, a fog gate to his far right. Naruto approached the tower, looking for anything peculiar about the wall, when Kurama replied. "Swing at it." Guinevere says there's a bonfire lying beyond this. He didn't feel his blade striking anything substantial when he swung it across the wall. The wall suddenly vanished, revealing the previously stated bonfire, which he kindled so he could slumber safely. He leaves the campfire and enters the fog gate, where he faces some massive bronze knights armed with shields and swords. Naruto instantly slices through their ankles and is able to counteract their movement with some well-timed rolls, cutting them down to size. He makes it through the area without too much difficulty, but the lizards and tree creatures are just too numerous and unpleasant to him. After gathering everything in this area, he advances up the route to the right, where he encounters a massive root obstructing his path and settles for slashing at the root. Over the course of 10 minutes, he chopped through the root and it vanished, leaving him with an opening to exit. Naruto proceeded to another clearing, eliminating more creatures and even slaying a gigantic stone golem. There, Naruto discovered an available ring and smiled before placing it in his storage place. When he returned to a safe location, he would sift through his spoils. From there, he managed to make his way through the region, slaying another gigantic golem as he passed it. Naruto soon arrived at another fog gate, this one with some type of arch, and he grimaced. I have a feeling we're in for a real treat. Naruto, be careful, there's something lingering on the other side, and given that this is a bridge, we can assume it flies. I swear, this can't be another dragon. Naruto walked through the fog gate to find himself on a bridge with a big moth-like thing hovering closer to him from the distance. Naruto cocked his brow. A massive bug? Naruto, beware. That's one of Seath's heinous experiments. Are you serious? That poor creature, it was twisted beyond recognition. It must have escaped the Grand Archives and come out here to find something, but it can't remember what it was, so it's just lashing out. It doesn't matter, it is. Naruto swiftly rolled as he saw numerous magical bolts launched at him, the assault directed in a pattern that he believes is to maximize the range and speed of his attack, but he was able to evade it owing to how sluggish it was going. Naruto instantly sees another tremendous attack coming at him after dodging the first, and he just rolls out of the way. This process would continue for at least 10 minutes, and Naruto grumbled in disgust. Damn thing has to run out eventually. What's taking so long? Seath is known as the father of magic, so it's possible that the creature has nearly limitless reserves. Well, it has to come to an end soon. Naruto proceeded to dodge more of its assaults, causing the butterfly to simply fire and fire and fire until he eventually sees it, the creature's final move in which it shoots a powerful sphere at him, but owing to how slow it was moving, he was able to roll away from it. However, the monster began to drift closer to the plants on the bridge. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he saw the thing was now within attack range, so he slashed at its head, but it just continued nibbling on the plant, so Naruto continued to hack at it, but the moment he saw the creature glowing, he roared. Not this time, you big flying bastard. He seized his sword and cut at the creature's wing, prompting it to flee. Wings that were urgently trying to keep them flying, but owing to the imbalance he was experiencing, the wings led him to crash into the bridge, blocking his path to the tower, and Naruto simply moaned. Sorry, big guy. As he approached the butterfly, he could hear it shrieking as if yelling something at him, which Naruto couldn't make out and frowned at. I'm curious. Naruto closed his eyes and caressed the creature's head. Kurama's eyes widened as he noticed Naruto attempting to connect with the natural world around him. Senjutsu. Senjutsu. Yes, that is Naruto's technique, which he learned from his master before him. According to what I understand, the technique involves his working alongside nature, yet this should be impossible given that he has lost his chakra. Perhaps the mana that replaced his chakra is acting as a substitute, so it has a different effect than chakra? Naruto, on the other hand, was seeing something that he couldn't describe. A dark and desolate location having several eyes watching them. They had tears flowing down their cheeks. Their bodies were in pain. All a white gift can feel is anguish as it extends its huge hand. As it floats in the air, it notices more of its kind. The being floating through the sky seeing a man begging for his life at the top of a skyscraper. Observing a blonde boy enter the location and casting magic at him. All I wanted was for the pain to stop, please. Naruto drew his hand back, his eyes widening. Wait. What was that? What happened, Kit? I don't really know. It's so confusing. I think I saw the creature's memories. Naruto shivered. Kurama, they are so horrible. How can someone do this to someone? I mean, even Orochimaru drew the line at certain things, but this guy, he didn't stop. Their screams, their pain, it's so haunting. Kurama scowled. He felt awful for Naruto. Something like that would shake up anyone, and if he thinks Orochimaru is bad, then this man is a true twisted fuck. Guinevere, on the other hand, cried. She understood what he was talking about. How could she not? She knew the being intimately and despised him more than anybody else, even more than her father for what he did in his paranoid state of mind. He was more despised than the 4 kings who had betrayed her father. He irritated her more than the pygmies who had imprisoned her sister and would keep her trapped for all eternity. She despised him so much she couldn't tolerate it, despising him for all the evil he had caused. But now was not the time. She was preoccupied with the butterfly's memories and essence, which she began to want. Hugging the being's soul, she whispered into it. Hush, child. Everything is fine now. I'm not going to let him touch you again. Please sleep now so that you can sleep and embrace those you have yearned for. Guinevere sobbed and embraced the soul in her loving arms, pleading with it to forgive her. Naruto, on the other hand, had shaken off some of the shock and proceeded through the ruined tower, where he discovered a blacksmith's corpse sitting in a praying position, his hammer destroyed, and his smith shop overgrown or ruined. He felt the pain this man went through, but quickly swallowed his feelings and retrieved a small stone that glowed and looked like a whetstone that he had seen before. When he returned, he spotted Andre and handed him the stone he found with the blacksmith. The man smiled as he looked at it. Thank you, lad. With this, I can make your weapons divine and upgrade them even further than before. Naruto nodded and said, Great. Hey, I was wondering who it was that I stole the stone from. He scowled. An old friend. No one I should. Would you like the fucking sword or not? I'm pointing to the massive sword. Naruto could see this was a personal matter, so he chose to ignore it, holding his palms up and nodding in response to his query. Walking over, Naruto gripped the blade's handle with both hands and lifted it, grunting with the weight of the blade. Shit, really heavy, Naruto moaned as he set the sword on the ground. Looks like killing the dragon will have to wait until I can swing this fucking blade. Naruto sighed. Hey Andre. Where did you say you got this blade? Oh, some traveling merchant said an old swordsman used it for a long time but gave up on it years ago after completing his goal. We don't know much else except that the man appears to have strewn his armor, weapons, and even his limb. Like the one you're wearing, although his was more intricately designed. Naruto nodded his head, his gaze fixed on the weapon, yet he frowned. He swears he saw something reflecting off the blade. Is there anything special about this blade? Aside from the fact that the fucking thing is heavy as fuck? No, not at all, Andre replied. I don't know why, but I swear I saw something in the blade. Naruto scowled, picking up the sword again with both hands struggling to keep it up, slowly lifting the blade above his head and then bringing it down in a tremendous swing. Well, I guess, he grumbled, there's nothing better to do than practice with this sword, no? Andre grinned. That's the spirit of the brat. Keep doing this, and maybe you'll be able to swing that thing around like your other sword in a few days. Naruto gazed at him and continued to sweep the blade downward in a stroke. Is there anything I can do to improve this weapon? He made a shaky motion with his head. Unfortunately, that blade is incompatible with any of the materials in this land. That is, upgrading it is out of the question, but I have a hunch it doesn't require it. Naruto nodded. The weapon was hefty as hell, and even if it didn't cut anything, he was confident it could break bones and bodies with ease. He began going over things in his brain while riding the swings and alternated between taking breaks and doing physical workouts to enhance his body. First, we have to get to the second bell tower, but we won't be able to get there until we get past that dragon. However, the gate is there, isn't it? My guess is that the dragon is there to act as a guardian or something. Guardian. How, though? How else do you explain a giant dragon in the middle of a sewer system with no obvious signs of how it got into the city without drawing attention? A fair point. Yeah, but we still have to ring the other bell, and then what? You'll be able to walk through the gate. The one that man is staring at, unsure how to open it. So ring it, the place opens up. I pass through additional death traps and similar obstacles, and eventually I find my way to. What exactly is the location? To my former home. Are you referring to the capital? Yes. Naruto smirked. Guinevere, I was going to ask you a question. Yes. What exactly is it? What became to the pygmy folks you mentioned? Those who had contact with the Dark Soul. Actually, that is a good question. We talked about it while you were busy, and she told me that they were all touched by it, and supposedly they were well equipped to handle the next era, which is why the Age of Fire was extended. Yes, Father feared the next age. He didn't want the pygmy race to challenge him, despite the fact that they were loyal to a fault and even capable of being better than some of our best troops. They were well equipped, and their armor was powerful enough that even the gods feared them, primarily because it came from the abyss. Abyss. Yes, it is the origin of all beings, but those of us from the Age of Fire fear it because of the danger that dwells there and how our powers don't work as well as others. I see, so the pygmies may live there because of their link to the Dark Soul, and when the Age of Fire ends, they will have the opportunity to rule over the entire realm. Indeed, that is why my father banished them to the farthest reaches of the world, with their own kingdom and all, but he made sure they could never challenge him. They are a cursed race, unaware that they were betrayed by the very people they worshipped and followed. But that was your father, dear, Kurama said, looking back at the goddess, who was still clutching the butterfly's soul. Your father and his allies made those decisions, not you. Your siblings had nothing to do with it, you didn't do it, and no one who didn't have a voice in the situation did it. Remove the guilt you feel in your heart. What happened to them was paranoia and greed built up over generations of domination. Nothing more. Kurama is correct. You feel guilty, which makes you a better ally to others around you than those who try to hide their mistakes behind some divine ideal. You accept responsibility, and you are the one most positioned to help repair the mistakes of the past. Guinevere sobbed and grinned. Thank you both, and I ask that you continue on this journey with me so that we can do just that. Of course, what is the point of having friends? However, I am concerned about what is to come. However, why? Is there someone in the capital we should be wary of? Whether they are still there or not is unknown because, once again, I haven't been around to see what has happened in the last few hundred years. I suppose we'll find out soon. Naruto sighed and sat down on the ground by the link fire, frowning at his freshly acquired blade. However, the globe is broader than I imagined, and some of the stories are much darker than our own. But it's worth it, because I believe this is a better planet than my own. There will be no deception or BS, simply people carrying out their own agendas rather than pretending to be your buddy and maintaining the pretense indefinitely. True. Indeed, I do wonder, if the Dark Soul does exist and appears to be the most flexible of all souls, does this mean that the soul is lingering somewhere in the world and we just don't know it? What about the Pygmy Kingdom, could they hold it? No, the Pygmies are byproducts of the Dark Soul. They are connected to it in some way, but they do not possess the original. Last I heard, Artorias conquered the Abyss, revealing that he slayed a mighty being that is considered the first Pygmy, so if I had to guess, Artorias is more than likely the only one who knows what happened, but he perished ages ago. Naruto groaned and said, well, sooner or later, we'll find out. Call it a gut feeling. Naruto grinned and closed his eyes, enjoying the warmth of the fire while ignoring the tingling sensation on the side of his brain. Something was nagging at him, and he had no idea what it was. Father, please stop. I'm sorry, but you must perish. Images of a white bearded man, a flash of yellow, and a pair of feminine hands raised in a scream. Naruto jerked awake, sweating profusely and hyperventilating. What exactly did I just see? Naruto sighed after a night of rest and resumed his training routine. Literally, because even with two hands, the big sword was still too much for him. Naruto merely kept doing downward slashes to practice his speed and timing with the blade. More specifically, to aid in his control and acclimate to the great weight of the blade itself. When he wasn't swinging, he was working out his upper body with push-ups, handstands, and other exercises. This was to strengthen his upper body in preparation for the incredible strength required to handle and manage the blade. Unfortunately, he was having more difficulties than he expected and discovered how much he relied on chakra to get through some of his circumstances since, while he was experienced with swords, he was not accustomed with enormous blades. It reminded him of Zabuza's sword, as well as Kisami's, and he pondered whether there was a trick to handling such large swords. Naruto groaned and said, "Well, there's nothing for it but to keep training. Once I'm satisfied that I can hold this sword without difficulty, I'll transfer to practice against moving targets. At this rate, we're going to need a while to train just to carry it effectively, let alone use it. Perhaps down the road, we can find another that isn't as heavy in requirement when managing its physical strength." Perhaps, Naruto groaned, continuing his downward swings before switching to side swings. "Hello, Guinevere." "Yes. I was hoping you could tell me more about the land before it collapsed. If you guys were this desperate to keep your age and period of time going, it had to be a fairly serious scenario." "You are correct. I, too, was afraid of the next age and what it would bring, as it is known as the Age of Darkness." Age of Darkness. Yes, as I previously stated, there was an age ruled by the eternal dragons and an age here ruled by us. However, the next era, the one predicted as the Age of Dark, is supposedly going to be ruled by the pygmy because the dark soul allows them to survive without the requirement of a lord soul, and it was shareable with all the people, unlike ours. Interesting. Does this imply that the dark soul is theoretically present in everyone? I'm not sure. It's such a vague concept that even we gods don't understand it, but to be honest, the Age of Darkness would have been preferable to prolonging the age. Naruto smirked. "Didn't you say the flame was dying? I recall you saying that it was the source of the age, and that it came, and then you tried to reignite it after it passed. Some of the other gods speculated that the first flame would reignite sometime down the line and begin a new age, but everyone was so fearful of the what-ifs that they didn't bother to consider maybe things will be okay. I was among them, wanting to avoid the end of the Age of Fire, but over time, when I saw how far people were going to try and preserve it and what was coming of it, I just started to grow more and more. While I have no feelings about fate, I do believe that nature always finds its way. As a sage, you rapidly realize that you cannot control nature. Instead, you must work with it and guide it. It cannot be controlled or manipulated." Yes, and that is what the lords attempted to do. They attempted to avoid the natural order and how one age had to end for a new one to begin. That is the worst part. It is what tore my family apart, it is what started a rebellion, and it is what started nothing but endless bloodshed in this land. Now that you mention it, is it possible that all the undead are a byproduct of nature's rage against your world, and that they are punishing you for attempting to extend your life beyond what is natural? Yes. I came to the same conclusion as many scholars and former friends, but my father would have none of it and would have struck them down for even considering relighting the first flame or recreating the event. Did someone attempt to imitate a natural event? The witch did. She attempted to create something akin to the first flame, but sadly, that didn't work. In fact, the last I heard before I passed, the witch had succeeded in creating something, we don't know what, but she made something. But it didn't work like the first flame did. It didn't become a guiding light that was to save our era, but something far more twisted. Naruto smirked. Twisted like the animals we've been witnessing. Naruto reflected on the Taurus demon, Asylum monster, and Capra demon. Yes, they are all byproducts of this flame, and while the flame is supposedly suppressed in their kingdom, we don't know the true extent of the damage done to their realm. But because of it, we have demons roaming the land, and while my father managed to defeat most of them and even tame some of them, sadly it has all been for naught. If the demons are so bad, why don't those other figures help? Aren't they concerned about their own realms? No. Father had given up his lord soul in a desperate attempt to relight the first flame, and he broke his soul into 5 pieces. Wait. How is it possible? You indicated that just the dark soul was in pieces, so how would he be able to do this with something like a lord soul? I honestly don't know. Father never explained it much, and I think even he didn't realize the full extent of his soul's strength. But he retained his power, and soon things began to deteriorate faster than before. He had banished one of my siblings for betraying him, another sent to control the pygmy, and what he did to the last of us, it was horrible. Naruto grimaced as he performed a handstand. I'm sorry I inquired. It's fine Naruto, you were curious. But returning to your original question, the Lord of Death Nito, he is residing in his land of the catacombs. Last rumor I heard is that he just rests there and lets the world play out as more people die, the stronger his position grows. As for the witch, she still resides in her capital surrounded by demons and her children. Finally, my father's soul was turned into fragments inside Seath. Who exactly were they? They were 4 lesser rulers who accompanied my father into battle alongside the other lords, but sadly, they had become consumed by their own desires and power. Father mentioned he never trusted them and ensured they could never oppose him, and even set their kingdom up to be flooded if necessary, which did happen, slaughtering so many innocent people. A city on the water with more undead residents. Along with the other evils they delved into as a result of their pact with the Abyss. So, everyone was basically betraying everyone? Yes. The son's daughter groaned. I, too, was betrayed by father when my servants were experimented on without restraint and he offered no apology or safety. Then, when I tried to flee, father he. Naruto sat on the ground, sadly smiling. Didn't he tell you it was for the greater good when he killed you? How did you find out? I have a feeling, but your father strikes me as someone who will justify his motives in such a way. But, in any case, I'm delighted he did betray you. Why? Because we wouldn't have met, and I don't believe that's something I'd want to miss for the world. You have a way with words, the woman said sternly, shaking her head as she heard Kurama snicker. While resting between workouts, Naruto sat on the ground and gazed up towards the ceiling. 4 souls, then. One is nearby but in hiding, another attempted to do something with theirs and was turned, and the final is shattered into bits for his confidant and 4 individuals he didn't totally trust. Furthermore, the dark soul appears to have developed with time, yet the major portion is still missing after all this time. Naruto groaned and said, hopefully, we'll learn more about the plight of some of the people in this region and come up with a solution that we can all agree on. Perhaps, but be warned, the challenges only get tougher from here, and I'm afraid of what we'll find in Blight Town. There's no point worrying about it because we haven't arrived yet. More importantly, we have to deal with that huge-ass dragon first. Naruto is correct for now, we should keep training and hope to deal with it soon. Naruto leaned back and pushed himself to his feet. Alright, back to work. 2 weeks have passed. Naruto had returned to the sewers near the dragon's lair's entrance. He'd finally gotten the training down to the point where he could use the sword. He didn't feel the same weight in his prosthetic arm as he did in his natural one. But he still had to be careful with the blade because he only had roughly 4 ways to swing or stab it in certain situations. Furthermore, if he uses it without limitation or control, his body will deplete faster over time. But he was prepared after dealing with the returning zombies and some of the people near the shrine. He spoke with a priestess who was about to embark on a long journey into the catacombs in search of a temple to which she wanted to pray. It appeared to be a rite of passage she had to go through for herself and others. At the same time, she had escorts with her, with whom he spoke several times. But they weren't really interesting to him, and he was apprehensive of the blonde man he'd seen before. According to the myth spread by the Golden Knight who was staring at the fire shrine lady, he was not all he seemed. Naruto felt hesitant, but he left the situation alone because it was none of his business and he hadn't been invited. But he would keep an eye out for them in the future. Furthermore, the fire user thanked him for rescuing him from the barrel and stated that the gold-armored man had been observing the maiden for a long time and had recently moved right in front of her. Naruto instructed him to keep a careful eye on the situation and to do whatever he could if the fire went out because he was concerned about what this could imply for the rest of them. The man agreed, but added that if he was interested in learning pyromancy, he should come visit him since he would be willing to train him. It appears to be a popular sort of magic employed by the witch and her followers, therefore those of the swamp adopted it as well. It was stated that it was more useful in terms of magic than other forms of magic that involve the usage of staffs. Naruto agreed with his assessment and smiled at this revelation. But he declined the instruction since he wanted to concentrate on his sword, which is enough trouble for him. Furthermore, he wasn't ready to begin training in something new until he had mastered close-quarter fighting. Back in the sewer, he took a deep breath and faced down the fog gate from before. Alright, round 2. Naruto entered the gate and spotted the dragon on the opposite side of the arena, who let out a massive roar.
Bring it on. Naruto drew the massive sword into his hand, grasped it with both hands, and waited for the dragon to approach.
He didn't have to wait long before the dragon began dragging its entire body across the ground and charging at him. Naruto rolled to its right side, out of the direction of the charge. The creature failed to hit on the charge, but it swiftly retaliated with tremendous stomps after collapsing against the wall and shrieking louder than he could remember.
Alright. Got the timing down now then. Naruto rushed to the dragon's side but was swiftly met by it raising his leg up and rapidly pushing off his heels, evading the slam. The dragon banged its legs into the ground many times before repeating the process with its other legs.
Okay, so it has a way of keeping me away from his side or keeping my aggression more honest. Unlike the others, he possesses the size, strength, and diversity in his maneuvers to deal with any challenge. Naruto noticed the thing slowly shifting to the side to aim at him again, but Naruto immediately rallied to its side and cut at its side this time.
The beast roared again and resumed a stomping barrage, which Naruto rolled away from and waited for the fatal stomp. He instantly sliced at the creature's side once more.
Furious, the beast charged forward once more, slamming into the wall and knocking down some surrounding pillars. But it rapidly spun around and charged at him again. Naruto dodged and rolled out of the path, slashing one of its foot. The move was thwarted since the creature's stomp knocked him backwards. Note to self: don't charge him while he's charging, I think. The thing quickly drifted in the air before turning to face him again. Okay, so he can float too good to be true. Naruto narrowed his eyes as it raised his head and slammed it, along with his jaw and stomach, against the ground, and Naruto saw his head available.
He swung his blade at the creature's head, but it growled and attacked him.
This time, his charge slammed him square in the face, knocking the wind out of him and leaving him prostrate beneath its girthy frame. Fortunately, Naruto quickly rolled under the dragon's body after sustaining the hit and losing his wind. He escaped most of the damage that came his way, but the thing kept charging and stopped just as he got out behind him. He swiped his tail, sending Naruto flying backwards and moaning at the sensation of his chest cracking.
This is more difficult than I anticipated. Naruto's eyes widened as its jaw opened and a green liquid exploded from his mouth.
He hurried around the strike and to the dragon's left flank, not wanting to be hit by it. He stabbed the creature's side again, causing it to scream in wrath and begin beating the ground repeatedly. He dashed behind the dragon and saw its tail sprawled on the ground, stamping its feet. Not wishing to be smacked by it again, Naruto jumped at it, landed on his tail, and claimed a portion of its back. The dragon tried to shrug him off, but Naruto refused, causing the tail to elevate itself and cut through the dragon's scales and meat with a single swipe. It roared even louder as its tail impacted the ground. The earth began to shake, boulders began to fall from the ceiling, and he noticed it smashing its feet even more. Geez, we need to stop this fight quickly or it could escalate. Naruto aimed his blade straight, time to go straight through the monster's mouth. With his sword, he made a forward thrust. However, he was thrown into the air and lost his balance. What the he? Naruto saw the dragon leap into the air, sending him flying higher, and smack into him with a powerful spin. However, he became entangled in one of the fangs, which cut into his arm. While rolling over the ground, Naruto swiftly knelt and glanced down at his arm. He could tell that it had sliced deep into his flesh and that it was just skin deep, but it was still not good. Fuck, got careless. The creature knows I'm trying different techniques, but he can read my moves. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he heard the monster roar again. Hail Mary it is then. Naruto took up his massive sword and lifted it above his head with two hands. He surged forward and, without fail, sent the blade flying after pulling his shoulders and hands over his head and his sword touching the ground behind him. The dragon's jaws was open, but it had made a horrible decision. The sword pierced the creature's mouth and exited the back, impaling itself on the ground behind him. The creature shouted in agony, and the dragon couldn't take it any longer, writhing about even more. Naruto saw his opportunity and summoned his other blade before aiming at the creature's toes, but it could see him coming. Its arms came towards him and attempted to seize him, but Naruto sensed this coming and rolled under the thing's grasp, turned around, and slashed one of its hands off, causing the creature to start spilling more blood. This time, Naruto's head was covered, as were his eyes. Naruto sliced at the dragon's exposed bottom section of its mouth as it roared and pounded its feet even more. Naruto didn't hesitate and slashed at its legs, severing a section of the leg that continued stomping again before snapping. Naruto quickly rolled beneath the beast as it tipped to the right. Naruto went to the Dragon Slayer and yanked it out of the earth before impaling the blade through the creature's abdomen. "Stay down right now." Naruto then thrust and dragged his sword over the creature's guts, causing it to scream once more before slumping motionlessly. He sighed and drew his sword, backing away from the dragon. Only the wings on its back allow it to push itself upright and float aloft. When Naruto saw the dragon heading right at him, he rapidly raised his blade and stabbed the creature through his stomach. The creature screamed in agony, and soon blood covered him from head to toe inside the dragon's body. It screamed in anguish as Naruto continued to drive his blade through his stomach and intestines, but in the end, the dragon dropped to its side once more. Naruto pushed his sword further and further until it saw it rip through the top of its back in the light from the open ceiling. Naruto drove his blade upward again, forcing it out of the body, while pulling out a small dagger and cutting at the creature's insides, making it scream even louder. He eventually managed to burst out of the monster's stomach after roughly 10 minutes of this repetitive procedure of messing up the creature's insides. It lay still on the ground, and Naruto crawled out, covered head to toe in blood and shattered organ flesh. "Fuck, it's painful and burning. But finally, it's finished," Naruto exhaled. Naruto crawled closer to the sword, groaning at the searing sensation on his flesh and the numbness in his shoulder. "Fuck it. Everything aches. Drink the Estus flask quickly, Naruto, it will heal your injuries." "Okay." Naruto took a brief sip of the flask and found himself groaning as his arm wound healed and the burning sensation on his skin faded. He could feel his flesh returning to normal and his body gradually healing. Taking another sip, he felt his stamina and body return faster, and he was soon sitting erect, staring at the dragon's remnants. This guy was a pain to deal with, but at least the fight is over. "That's correct, but it was close. Be more cautious with your swings and tells next time. Something tells me that we'll have more trouble with adversaries like him in the future." "I have no idea. But this is a good learning curve for me that I can't avoid." "No, but at the very least, we came out of this slightly unscathed." Naruto sat up, but soon saw the dragon's corpse burst in a white cloud of dust and felt its spirit merge into his own, but his head began ringing crazily. A gray oppressive sky, stone pillars almost reaching the sky, and dragons flying across it. Other dragons gathered around the smaller beings, chatting with them. Lighting streaming down from the ground below, lighting attacking dragons, and soon more people assaulting the dragons. A white dragon with strange traits crushes the bodies of the dragons around him while screaming something at them. The lesser beings creating big balls of fire and a black entity formed of bones glides around the area disappearing their bodies. Seeing the white skin being and this time discovering it placing some kind of crystal into his body. Forced to confront an elderly man who was yelling something at him. Finding oneself stuck in the rubble below, interminable nights, nauseating smells, and no light in sight. Nothing but the movement of humans above and below. We had been duped. Naruto's eyes widened as he scowled at the location where the dragon formerly stood. Betrayal. Pardon? I guess I just glimpsed the dragon's memories. I saw it, as well as the other dragons. Are you certain they posed a threat? Yes, that's how Father and the others always discussed it. There was nothing but darkness ahead of us, and the dragons would devour us if we ventured to oppose them. So, thanks to the Lord Souls, we were finally able to find our own independence. At least, that's how he described it to us all those years ago. I'm not convinced that's correct. The dragon appeared to have a different version of events. I observed it speaking with humans and other dragons, and it appeared that they were friendly until the battle began. I get what you mean. Some of our race were able to establish friendly relations with the dragons and were even permitted to settle in areas far from the dragons in order to prevent potential resource conflicts. Just because nothing could or would die didn't mean they weren't cautious. Naruto shook his head and said, "It appears that the so-called heroes assaulted the dragons in search of their territory and resources, but the strangest thing is that I saw some kind of white being with them slaughtering the dragons. It had the appearance of a dragon, yet its body was unusual. It was Seath." Wait a minute, hold up. Are you telling me that this guy is the same Seath who runs that grand library? Kurama asked his home guest. Why would your father entrust him not only with a powerful position, but also with his soul? Father promised him his own conservatory where he could conduct magical research and have unlimited resources. Furthermore, he granted him a high-ranking position to deter individuals from conspiring against him and to give him legitimate standings. Unfortunately, this simply resulted in the dragon's head swelling. But he looks completely different. I know that's why he betrayed his species. He didn't have the same immortality they did, so he searched out ways to keep his existence going regardless of what happened and to prevent death at the hands of his own kind. He had to get imaginative with his pursuit because he lacked their abilities. I see. Well, looks like this poor dragon was another victim of his experiments, and he was locked down here by the appearance of a white hair man with a golden crown, who I'm guessing is Gwyn, Naruto lamented. Yes, that is him. That is, he was the one who buried him here, which is why no one knew and why he was a type of guardian in this ancient tomb. Meaning father knowingly put all of these people in danger. I'm sorry to say it, lady, but it sounds like your father was trying to keep them in line with the dragon's threat, as well as to unleash it if necessary on the people of Blight Town or those above. The goddess nodded and said, "Did you happen to see anything else?" It was only his sorrow and suffering from being alone in this cavern for so long, and his final words were, "We were betrayed." I believe there is more to your father's story and the souls than we know. Indeed. Perhaps that's why he, Naruto raised an eyebrow in response to the quiet. He who? Naruto opted to leave it as is because the woman refused to respond. He sighed as he picked up the key and a new weapon for cutting off the dragon's tail from the water. He left the opening, picking up some other collectibles before returning to the enormous shut door. He hastily opened the door after inserting the key into the lock and was forced to look at a horrifying sight. Decrepit wooden planks and boards, shaky bridges, and what appeared to be sickly humans walking in the distance. Do you know what? Perhaps I should restock my supplies. Wonderful concept. If this second bell is meant to be more difficult to reach than the first, perhaps we should prepare as best we can. Agreed. Return to the bonfire shrine so that we can analyze the situation. Okay. After his long battle, Naruto turned on his heels, hurriedly withdrew to the nearest bonfire, and fell asleep. While the sewers were not the nicest place to relax, they were improved by the link fire and a good spot to find warmth instead of traveling all the way back to the main shrine on the surface. A man standing on a gigantic beast confronted a man wearing a golden crown. You would betray me. I would do anything to protect her. There must be a way to change this and conquer the abyss, and I will discover it. You scumbag. Mark my words, you will never hear your name mentioned again. I will do so for the sake of my sister and the rest of my family's safety. I also know what you actually done, father. You're filth in my book. You arrogant little shit, says the narrator. He summoned a bolt of lightning and hurled it, but the man quickly snatched it away with his spear-like weapon. Farewell, father. May we meet again on better terms. He found himself in a throne room, and the king frowned. She fell short. That fucking witch was unable to solve the problem. So-called pyromancy master. Go find that useless husband of yours, he shouted, turning to face the figure in question. Isn't he meant to be a fire god? Allow him to handle the matter with the flame. The man now stood over the corpse of a man dressed in crimson armor. Worthless. Don't think this can't happen to you, dear. Nothing matters. The age of fire must continue, he sneered. Father, yes. To be continued.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. I hope that you enjoyed this bit of the story, and if you did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for helping support, and have a great day.